It's well known that when you start to go on this process of healing and self-care, and we start to shift away from people-pleasing tendencies to establishing boundaries, that it causes a lot of resistance within the relationships around you. And that resistance is one of the main reasons why a lot of people don't start inputting boundaries or aren't very firm with their boundaries. But when you start to really sort of put them within your life firmly, the relationships in your life change. And the way in which you communicate with people changes. And one of the hardest things I've experienced, and also that I've seen happen between people that I know who have decided to put in boundaries and get rid of their people-pleasing tendencies and start to really focus on themselves and their love and their life, a lot of the resistance that happens comes from really a lack of communication. We're taught that we don't have to over-explain ourselves. So when you are starting to heal and starting to move forward, you are advised to be unapologetically yourself. You're advised to not over-explain yourself. That if you feel like you have to justify why you're doing something all of the time, then you're not really healing and you're not really establishing boundaries. But the flip side to that is something that I've seen quite a lot. When you suddenly put up a boundary or suddenly get firm on that boundary, if you don't communicate to the people around you why that is now a boundary, they just think you're being stubborn and just letting them down. And it causes a lot of friction within the relationship when the person that you're putting up that boundary for may actually be someone who accepts that boundary. They may actually be someone who will love you regardless and are willing to change their behavior. But if you don't justify it, not really justify it, but if you don't really communicate the reason why this is now a boundary, the whole relationship breaks down. And we get so worried about losing people. And part of life's journey is the fact that we lose relationships. But we get so worried about what's going to happen to my relationship with my family, what's going to happen to my relationship with my friends, what's going to happen to my relationship with my work, my relationship with my romantic relationship when I start to put in these boundaries. You don't have to over-justify yourself. But if you're putting in a boundary because I can't spend too much of my time doing this because it's too physically draining and it's making me ill, there's nothing wrong with communicating that and saying to the person, I want to help you, I love you, I want to continue, but I can't do it to the level that I'm doing. I need space and time to recharge because it is just making me ill. Let's work out a way that I can still support you in a way that we can mutually be better. Is not a bad conversation to have, but it's often not a conversation that we think of having. I'm seeing it a lot within the people that I know at the moment, where some of them have got really firm boundaries and some of them don't. And the reason for those boundaries is very much, in some cases, medical. And in other cases, just because they've just got so much on their plate and so many things that they're balancing that their availability is limited. And it doesn't mean that they're not willing to help, but their availability is limited because of it. And they just physically cannot take any more on at someone else's request. But the people without boundaries don't see that. And their opinion is that you've always given to me, so you need to continue to give to me because otherwise this relationship is gone because I would overgive. And it's something that's not really talked about a lot. Because when you want to start to work on yourself, work on your dreams, work on your goals, creating this life of peace and stability, you're going to be doing things different because you weren't working to it in the same way. And it is going to cause that friction. And not everybody will understand. Not everybody will understand your vision. And there will be people that look around and go, well, why on earth are you working on that? What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? That's what you don't have to justify. That's what you don't have to over-explain. But if you're putting up a boundary that affects an important relationship to you, then we should consider the person on the other side. And that doesn't mean don't put the boundary up, and that doesn't mean change your boundary. But give them the opportunity to understand. And if they decide that it's too much and they don't want it, then that relationship was never meant to continue into your future. But by communicating with it and going, look, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing. You might not understand it, you might not agree it, but this is what I need to do for me. And I can still do this, but in this way. Then at least you're giving them the opportunity. And at least you're giving people the chance to stay in your life. And if they decide not to, then they're not meant to be with you for the next chapter of your life. But you don't have to explain why you want to start your own business. You don't have to explain why you want to take up that new hobby. You don't have to explain why you're on a health gig. You don't have to explain why you're now into spirituality and religion and God and truth and authenticity. You don't have to explain any of that. It's finding that balance. Because when you find that balance, you are a lot happier, and you know that you've given them the chance. You know that you've done everything you can. And if that relationship doesn't work, then it doesn't. But at least you know that you've tried, but from your own place of truth, from your own place of understanding. So I hope that helps. And I'll speak to you guys all soon.